If there's one thing that this channel has tried to proclaim, it's that an NFL team's record does not necessarily reflect its overall quality. To that end, we developed our own metric called C-Score, so that we can give teams a full evaluation using so many more aspects of the on-field product. A team's record is important, but not always indicative of C-Score. An 11-5 team can rate higher than a 13-3 team, or lower than a 9-7 team. Not all records are created equally. For a deeper explanation of C-Score, be sure to check out the description of this video. With all that in mind, it's safe to say that when a team improves its record from one season to another, it doesn't mean the team itself improved. We have many instances during the Super Bowl era where teams have done just that. In fact, we have 15 instances of a team improving its record, but also taking a double-digit drop in C-Score. We're going to reveal those teams to you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are ready to start. We will start with this group of three here on its own that don't quite fit the bill. The 1966 49ers went 6-6-2, while the 61 team went 7-7. Officially, they remain a 500 team, but it kinda sorta looks like a better record. The 82 Bills went 4-5 in a strike-shortened season before going 8-8 in 83. Likewise, the 81 Falcons went 7-9 before going 5-4 in 82. These win percentages are higher, but the imbalance between a 9-game schedule and a 16-game schedule is a bit too much to overlook. But, for the record, the Niners dropped by 10.425, the Bills by 10.718, and the Falcons by 15.841. Now, on to the main list. Coming in at number 12 are the 2016 Kansas City Chiefs. Everything looks fairly good here, a 12-4 record, a plus 78 point differential, and top half finishes in all these listed categories. That brings forth a solid C-score of 14.043. But 2015 had a lot more going for it, despite a lesser 11-5 record. The point differential is higher, their playoff performance was better, and even though their strength of schedule ranking is lower, the raw number is higher. That landed KC a 24.447 C-score, meaning they improved by 1 win, but still dropped by 10.404. The Chiefs had been building something for 3 seasons, but they finally broke through with a playoff victory in 2015, a 30-0 shutout of the Houston Texans, their first playoff win in 22 years. They went 5-3 in one-score games, but were even better in multiple-score games at 6-2. They earned a bye in the playoffs in 2016, but took a very close home loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They improved their record in one-score games from the previous season to 7-3, while only taking 1 loss by multiple possessions. They were a fine team, of course, they just didn't have the output or the schedule to approach what they did the season prior. Hello again! Not only do the Kansas City Chiefs immediately return to the countdown at number 11, they do so from just a few seasons later in 2020. They went 14-2 with what appears to be a solid point differential of plus 111, but for a record that good, it's a bit underwhelming. They have a solid C-score of 17.251, but not to the level of its 2019 team. At 12-4, their point differential was 32 points higher, and they were just a touch better at everything else across the board, landing a C-score of 28.547. Even with 2 more victories, that 2020 score dropped by 11.296. KC was actually a bit unlucky to go 12-4 in 2019. They were 7-0 in multiple possession games, while barely scraping out a winning 5-4 record in one-possession games. They took care of business in the playoffs though, and despite falling behind by double digits in every game, they wound up winning every game by double digits, taking home the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were still excellent in multiple possession games in 2020, landing a 6-1 mark, but they shot all the way up to 8-1 in one-possession games. This caught up to them somewhat in the playoffs, where they were still able to make it back to the Super Bowl. But their poorer play and a litany of injuries got them blown out in their bid for a repeat. Time for a new team. At number 10, we have the 2017 Arizona Cardinals. This squad scratched out a 500 record at 8-8, despite being outscored on the season by 66 points. The defense performed okay, but the offense left them lacking, finishing 8th worst in points scored. Their C-score drops to negative 8.737. It was much different in 2016. Although their schedule was easier, they performed much better against it, going 7-8-1 with a positive 56-point differential. That above-average C-score of 2.907 saw Arizona gain a half game, but drop by 11.644 in C-score. The 2016 Cards landed a winning record in games decided by more than one possession, going 4-3. The one-possession games themselves were less fruitful, going 3-5 in those contests, technically going 3-5-1. They clearly missed the playoffs, but could have made some noise with a bounce or two going in their favor. They missed out on the playoffs in 2017 as well, but even though by record they were closer, by performance they were further away. They carry mirror image records here, 6-2 in one-possession games, 2-6 in multiple possession games. 2 of those one-possession wins were even in overtime, so they can consider themselves lucky to have reached 500 at all. Different team, but the exact same season. Taking our number 9 spot are the 2017 Cincinnati Bengals. They couldn't quite scrounge out a winning record, going 7-9, all while getting outscored by 59 points. The issue here was the offense ranking 7th in fewest points scored. They land a C-score of negative 11.892. Just like the Cardinals before them, they were only half a game worse the year before, but they landed a positive point differential and played much better defense against a harder schedule. That 0.775 C-score represents a drop of 12.667. Since he had a terrible time with one-possession games in 2016, they managed the tie, but otherwise only got 1 win against 6 losses. Conversely, they did very well in multiple possession games, going 5-3, suggesting this may have been a playoff team in disguise. They weren't phenomenal in one-possession games the following season, but certainly much better at 4-4. They flipped their two-possession record from 5-3 to 3-5. Their largest wins all season were both against the winless Browns. Take those games away, and all of a sudden they're 5-9 with a negative 97 point differential. We need to travel back in time for our number 8 entry, the 1968 Boston Patriots. They weren't exactly the AFL's best this season, going 4-12 while getting pasted on the scoreboard to the tune of a negative 177 point differential. They didn't do much right at all, securing a C-score of negative 30.146. Sure, their record was worse in 1967, once again by only half a game, but they did everything else just a bit better. Still a bad team with a bad C-score of negative 17.388, but much better than whatever was going on the next year, landing them a drop of 12.758. The 67 Patriots were winless in games decided by one possession. Granted, they only had 3 of them outside of that tie, but they did lose all 3. So, all 3 of their victories came by multiple possessions, going 3-7 in those games. They also won 3 games by more than 7 points in 1968, but they also took 10 such losses, including 6 by more than 20 points. That left them with just 1 single possession game, and hey, they won it. Don't get it twisted, the Patriots were bad in both seasons, but improving their record did not improve their team. We've got an interesting case at our number 7 spot with the 1978 Atlanta Falcons. They went 9-7 and landed a wildcard spot, despite an underwater negative 50 point differential and finishing 3rd to last in scoring. Their negative 10.442 C-score makes them one of the worst playoff teams in NFL history. Now, this compares to their 1977 season when they went 7-7 with their point differential completely flipped at plus 50. So why did we include this team when we didn't include the 83 Bills or the 82 Falcons? Two reasons. One, the difference between 16 and 14 games isn't nearly as drastic as between 16 and 9. And two, these extra games were by design through an expanded schedule as opposed to a rash of cancellations. Atlanta's C-score this season is 2.988, so despite winning their extra 2 games, their C-score fell by 13.43. These two teams make for a fascinating comparison. The 77 Falcons had an all-time great defense, and in a sense, when compared with their offense, had the greatest defense of the entire Super Bowl era. But they only went 2-6 in one-score games against the 5-1 mark in multiple possession games. The 78 Falcons didn't come close to matching the Grits Blitz from the season prior, and could easily be considered below average. But they went 6-2 in one-score games, made it to the playoffs while only scoring 15 points per game, and won a playoff game before putting a scare into the powerhouse Dallas Cowboys. Sometimes football is really, really weird. And just like that, we welcome in another team from 1978. At number 6, we have the Los Angeles Rams. This was a 12-4 team that didn't exactly overwhelm with a plus 71 point differential, despite top 10 finishes in points scored and points allowed. Their weak schedule dragged them to a 10.45 C-score. They also lost 4 games in 1977, but against 10 wins in a shorter schedule. Yet their point differential shoots up to plus 156 with top 4 finishes in points scored and points allowed. Their 24.047 C-score means the Rams dropped by 13.597. The Rams ruled the roost in the NFC West during the 70s, and 1977 was no different. After an opening day loss of 11 points, they went 8-0 in games decided by multiple possessions, while only managing a 2-3 mark in their one-possession counterparts. They got upset at home in the playoffs by the Vikings, though, in a game now known as the Mud Bowl. 1978 still produced a good team, and they once again won the West, but they got away with a lot more, indicated by their 7-2 record in one-score games, including 4 straight wins by exactly 3 points. They got their revenge against the Vikings in the playoffs, but when the Cowboys came to LA for the NFC Championship game, they got walloped 28-0. We opened the top 5 at number 5 with the 1994 Arizona Cardinals. 8-8 certainly looked good for Cardinals fans, this being their first non-losing season in 10 years. They were outscored on the season, but not by too much at 32 points. Their C-score stayed in the negative though at minus 5.769. In 1993, the Phoenix Cardinals only managed the 7-9 record, but they were top 10 across the board here and had a positive 57 point differential. Their C-score was positive at 8.237, meaning the Cards gained 1 win, but took a drop of 14.006. Entering the 1993 season, 3 different teams from the NFC East had won the last 3 Super Bowls. This just so happened to be the division the Cardinals played in, making their lives a bit difficult. Of course, the East added a 4th team this season as well. The Cardinals were a brutal 2-8 in one-possession games, with only 1 loss by more than 1 score. The fingerprints of new head coach Buddy Ryan are clear to see on the 94 team. 4th in points allowed, 2nd to last in points scored. They once again played 10 one-possession games, but were able to win half of them. Buddy was a defensive mastermind and quite the character, but the dreadful 1995 season following this one ended his head coaching days. The Cardinals' first entry was followed by the Cincinnati Bengals, and so too is this one. At number 4 are the 1990 Bengals. With their plus 8 point differential and their numbers across the board here, they are patently average, but with a 9-7 record and a 0.969 C-score. They were worse off by record in 1989 at 8-8, but not by any other measure. A 500 team with a positive 119 point differential is scarcely believable, and with a more difficult schedule to boot. Their C-score is 15.253. All that extra win in 1990 did was give them a drop of 14.284. The '89 Bengals won 6 games by multiple possessions. Only 2 teams since the 1970 merger have won more such games without achieving a winning record: the 2019 Cowboys and somehow the 1979 Saints. Cincy's schedule, though, was much harder. They're still the last team to score 55 plus points twice in the same season, going for 56 and 61. The 90 team, as we pointed out, was mostly steady. They did pull a great record in one-possession games at 5-1, but also managed 4 wins by multiple possessions. They added another with a 41-14 blistering of the Houston Oilers in the playoffs. This is by no means a bad team, rather a clear example of how a team can improve their record, yet still take a big step back. We have another team from 1977, but this time it's on the back end. Coming in at number 3, we have the 1977 Chicago Bears. 9-5 sure looks nice, but a point differential of only plus 2 points alongside the league's easiest schedule looks less nice. They land a C-score of negative 6.098. They could only go 7-7 in 1976, but they did so with a better point differential, a better defensive performance, and a much harder schedule. That was good for a 9.807 C-score, so even though they went up by 2 wins, they went down in C-score by 15.905. In 1976, the Bears allowed 20 or more points only 5 times, but they were 0-5 in those games. They actually did better in one-possession games than they did in multiple-possession games, going 4-3 and 3-4 respectively. Their positive performance essentially boils down to their above-average production against a very difficult schedule. Interestingly, the 77 Bears put up the exact same 4-3 record in one-possession games while improving to 5-2 in multiple possessions, creating quite the anomaly. Their negative performance essentially boils down to their average production against a very forgiving schedule. They were quickly exposed in a 30-point drubbing at Dallas in the playoffs. And now our third and final team from the 1978 season, the Houston Oilers take our number 2 spot. At 10-6, they became the first team in the Super Bowl era to be at least 4 games over 500 with a negative point differential to make the playoffs. The record says they're above average. C-score pegs them correctly at negative 0.376. Now they were only 8-6 in 1977, but against a relatively equivalent schedule, they performed much better across the board, exemplified by their 15.905 C-score. 2 extra games, 2 extra wins, but a sizable drop of 16.281. With the Steelers down from their dizzying heights of the previous 3 seasons, the AFC Central in 1977 was very competitive. The Oilers couldn't conquer the King, though, and missed out on the playoffs. They were better at multiple possession games, going 5-3 against their 3-3 record in the single-score department. The 1978 Oilers also lost 3 games by a single possession. In turn, they won 10 such games. Yep, that means they didn't win a single game all season by more than 7 points, squirming their way to that 10-6 record. Then all they did was go on the road in the playoffs and win 2 straight games by multiple possessions. But by now, the Steelers were back, and they smashed Houston up pretty good in the AFC title game. Taking the number 1 spot are the 2021 Atlanta Falcons. In the new 17-game schedule, Atlanta found its way to a 7-10 record despite being outscored by 176 points, more than 10 points per game. They weren't particularly good at anything, landing a C-score of negative 19.453. Every team to this point in the countdown has seen their win total increase by either 1 or 2. This team increased it by 3, following their 4-12 finish in 2020. But look at that point differential. 8 games under 500, but only negative 18, and against the second hardest schedule in the league. That C-score of negative 1.53 almost seems like they're being shortchanged. The 2021 Falcons take the largest dive in C-score of any team that had proved its record during the Super Bowl era at 17.923 points. 2020 was just a weird season altogether, and if the NFL was a TV show, it would be considered non-canon, just a character waking up from a dream. The Falcons couldn't escape the reality though, getting on the wrong side of 80% of their one-possession games, winning as many by one score as they did by multiple scores. Then came 2021, and despite a markedly easier schedule, they won 0 games by more than 8 points, while going 7-2 when the margin was within 8. One bizarre fact about this team is that their 7 wins this season came in 7 different stadiums. They won 5 true road games, a designated home game in London, then got their 7th and final win in their own home stadium, naturally by only 4 points, and naturally against a 3-win team. Looking at the entire list here reveals some interesting facts. 1978 shows up 3 times, and 2017 shows up twice, but 2 entire decades, the 1980s and the 2000s, are completely missing. In fact, between 1978 and 2016, a 38-year period, only the 90 Bengals and the 94 Cardinals make it on. Then, those 2 teams became responsible for both 2017 entries. No franchises seen here 3 times, with the Chiefs and the Falcons additionally getting 2 entries. But if we did include the teams from the introduction, then the Falcons would indeed land 3 entries. This has been a common theme throughout, but it's worth mentioning in the grander scheme of things. The 15 teams we looked at today went a combined 82 and 31 in their one-possession games. Their counterparts from the season before went 37 and 66. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. Please do the whole YouTube thing if you don't mind. Like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on anything else the channel puts out in the future. Let me know what you think about all of this. With a rash of recent teams achieving this not-so-distinctive honor, it seems quite possible for someone new to make it again in the upcoming season. It's something worth keeping an eye on. Was there anyone on this list that came as a surprise to you? Was there another team you were expecting to see but didn't? Sound off on these topics or anything else that you may have on your mind in the comments section below. I want to thank you once again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.